Hello students. Today we will discuss about the different sections of the medulla oblongata. Now you can see that this section is a very commonly asked question in your exam. So today I will tell you how to draw this section and what are the important points which you have to keep in mind while you are drawing the section of this medulla oblongata. So let's see first what is the functions of the brain stem. So when you will have the brain stem, there are three most important functions that brain stem serve as a conduit. That means it is a common passage for all the ascending and descending tracts which are either going to the cerebral cortex or coming down from the cerebral cortex to the spinal cord. Now in this image, if you will see, you will find that there are two sets of the fiber. Now you can see that these fibers either going inside the cerebral cortex, or if they are coming down from the cerebral cortex, they have to pass through the brain stem. So this part is the brain stem, and you know that brain stem is having the three component from above downward: midbrain, pons and medulla oblongata. So now this thing has to be always clear in your mind that if I am taking the section of the brain stem, that means if you are taking the section of the midbrain, pons or medulla, you always come across with these vertical tracts which are present in the brain stem. So that's why this function always keep in your mind that whenever you are drawing any section of any part of the brain stem, you always have to draw the tracts in that section. So that is the first thing which you have to clear in your mind. The second thing is that they contain important reflex centers, and the brain stem is responsible for the respiratory and cardiovascular reflexes. The third thing is that when you will see the brain stem, you will find multiple cranial nerve nuclei. Now there are 12 pairs of the nuclei, and you have to keep this thing in mind that the nuclei from 3rd to 12 are seen in the different part of the brain stem. So first and second cranial nerves are not at all related with the brain stem, but from 3rd to 12 you will find the nuclei in the different parts of the brain stem. So now after having this basic knowledge about the brain stem, we will see the transverse sections of the medulla oblongata. And for that you will have these three levels of the transverse section in your exam. First, the transverse section at the level of the decussation of the pyramid. Second is the transverse section at the decussation of the sensory fibers. And third at the level of olive. Now in this image, if you will see, what you are able to understand that this is your brain stem. And you know that brain stem is having three parts: midbrain, pons and medulla. Now here we are able to first see the anterior surface of your medulla oblongata. Now what you are able to understand that anteriorly you will have a fissure. Now you know that this anterior median fissure of medulla continue with the anterior median fissure of spinal cord. Now the second thing is that on both the side of this anterior median fissure, you will have the elevation. Now this elevation is present on both the side on ventral surface is pyramid. Now this elevation is a most important feature which is present here. But dear students, the very important concept comes here that this elevation is not going downwards in the spinal cord. Now if you will see the cross section of the spinal cord, you will not find any kind of the such elevation on ventral side of your spinal cord. It means that this elevation is a elevation which is a characteristic feature above the spinomedullary junction. That means at the lower end of the medulla oblongata, these elevations will disappear. So you will find the characteristic appearance of these pyramids only on the ventral surface of your medulla. So we will first discuss today only about this first section, that means the section of medulla at the level of decussation of pyramid. So first you should understand what is the meaning of the decussation of pyramid. So whenever you have this question, first we should have this concept. So the meaning of the decussation of pyramid means that there are 75 to 80% of the fibers which are known as corticospinal fibers. So these are the motor fibers, these are the descending tract fibers, and these fibers are known as pyramidal tract fiber. Now, whenever you are using the word decussation of pyramid, actually we are talking about the crossing of the 75 to 80% fibers of pyramidal tract, or you can say corticospinal fibers. And the decussation means the crossing. That means the right fibers will go to the left and left fibers will go to the right. So what is the meaning of the pyramidal decussation? That means the 75 to 80% of the corticospinal fibers are going to change their direction. That means they are showing the crossing in the midline, and when the crossing will occur, these 75 to 80% fibers will go into the opposite side. And what is the new place? So the new place is that they will come on the lateral white column of your spinal cord. So this has to be clear in your mind that pyramids are the ventral feature, but once the decussation or the crossing will occur, that pyramid will disappear in the lower part of the medulla, because the most of the fibers has achieved a new position, that means the lateral side of your white matter. So this has to be very clear in your mind that the pyramid, that means the underlying corticospinal fibers, are not present along the ventral surface in whole length of spinal cord. Rather, at the spinomedullary junction, at the lower end of the medulla, these fibers change their position, and from the anterior side, the most of the 80% fibers comes as a lateral corticospinal or lateral pyramidal tract. So this concept always in our mind whenever you are drawing the section of medulla at the decussation of pyramid. So what will happening here now in this diagram? You can see that this is the pyramid. Now when you will see the ventral side of your medulla, you are first find out this elevation on both the side of the midline, which is known as pyramid. Now when you will see the underlying structures in the pyramid, what you are able to understand that in underlying there is a number of the fibers are visible. Now what will happen that these fibers are running downward, but as soon as you are going gradually from this junction between the pons and medulla, that is pontomedullary junction, towards this spinomedullary junction, this thickness is decreasing in the size. Now why the thickness is decreasing in the size? Because if you will see, the fibers are started to cross the midline, and once the crossing is taking place, you can see that the majority of fibers now comes in the lateral aspect of the white matter, and in the upper part of the your medulla, these fibers are present in the ventral part of the this white matter. So my dear students, whenever you are drawing the section of the medulla, suppose I am drawing the section at this level, what I have to keep in mind that at this section you will find the pyramids, that means the corticospinal fibers are present here on anterior aspect. But when I am drawing the section at this level, I will find that these fibers are not present in a bulk amount, and they are crossing from this to opposite side. Clear? So my dear students, whenever you are drawing the section of the medulla at the level of the pyramidal decussation, you have to understand that the pyramid, that means this elevation, is produced because of the underlying fibers of your corticospinal tract, and these fibers gradually disappears from the anterior side, and they will achieve a new position as a lateral corticospinal tract. So first of all, you should keep this thing in mind. What do you mean by the decussation of pyramid? The decussation of pyramid means the crossing of your corticospinal fibers. Now here in this image, you can appreciate your pyramidal tract, which starts from the cerebral cortex, and here you can see the fibers are initially passing on the anterior aspect of your midbrain. then they are present on the anterior aspect of your pons, and once you will enter into in this medulla oblongata, still they are present here, but this is the upper part of the medulla. Now when you will see the lower part of the medulla, in this lower part of the medulla, here you can see the fibers are not present because the fibers has been crossed and they are gradually changing their position as a lateral corticospinal tract, and that's why when you will see the spinal cord, in the spinal cord you will find the majority or 80% of the pyramidal tract fibers present in the lateral column of white matter. So if these fibers will not cross 100%ly, then this should not be the place, then you have the pyramidal fibers at anterior surface. But you will not find the fibers on anterior surface or the anterior white column. Why? Because the crossing has been taken place. So my dear friends, we always keep this thing in mind that whenever we are drawing the section of pyramidal decussation, we are actually talking about the lowermost part of the pyramid, lowermost part of your medulla oblongata, where you are going to see the gradual changing in the direction of the corticospinal fibers. So right will go to the left and the left fiber will go towards the right side. Clear? So in this image, you can see the 3D arrangement of the corticospinal fibers. So here you can see that this thick bundle of the fiber is occupying the anterior surface in the midbrain. Then it is still going into the anterior part of the midbrain, that is the crus cerebri. Then they are coming again into the anterior part of the pons. It is again present in the anterior part of the medulla oblongata in the upper portion. But here, as you are going downward, the fibers start to cross, and when you will see the spinomedullary junction, these fibers now occupy as a lateral position, not present on the anterior side. So this happens in lower part of medulla, not in upper part of medulla. Because of that, you will have the pyramid only in the upper part of medulla, and the pyramid gradually decreases in the size as you will go downwards towards the spinal cord. So this section is the output when you are having this question, draw the first TS of your medulla. So whenever you are drawing the TS of medulla at the level of pyramidal decussation, that means at the lowermost part, we are first talk about the outline, how to draw the section. So you can see on both the side that this is a classical section of the spinal cord, and this is the section of medulla that is at the level of pyramidal decussation. Now if you will see the outline is almost similar. Now here you can see that this is the dorsal part of your this medulla, and you can see that this is your outline of this medulla. Now if you will see this on the other part of the classical cross section of your spinal cord, you will find that the outline is almost similar with this section. So it means that when you are going from spinal cord to the medulla, it is a gradual change occur, and at spinomedullary junction, you will find that these both are showing almost similar way of appearance. So you will find the same outline just like the spinal cord in case of the transverse section of medulla at the level of pyramidal decussation. So first, this should be very clear in our mind. Now the second thing comes is that when we are drawing these sections, you should have this image in your mind that the ventral surface of this medulla, now this is the medulla, and in this medulla what the ventral surface is showing, the ventral surface is showing the two elevation. Now this is your pyramid and this is your olive, but again the level is important. We are talking at the lower part of medulla, that means we are talking somewhere here. So in this part you will find olive is not a feature, and second thing is pyramid is there, but the thickness of pyramid is decreasing gradually. So when you will have the question, draw the transverse section at the level of pyramidal decussation, that level is not having the olive. So if I am drawing the section at this part, then I will draw the olive, otherwise I will not draw the olive. So in this section, you will don't have the olive. You have only the one projection is there, and this projection is actually this part of your pyramid, and this part of pyramid is also not much prominent as the section if you will draw at the upper level. Clear? Now the second thing is the important feature on the dorsal side. Now when you will see the dorsal side, you know that in upper part of medulla and in lower pons, you are having this cavity of fourth ventricle. So we are not again drawing at the upper medulla, we are drawing at the lower medulla. So in lower medulla, you will find the central canal which continue with the central canal of a spinal cord. So in this section also, you will find the central canal. Clear? Suppose I am drawing the section in upper medulla, then I will have the open floor of the fourth ventricle. The second thing is that when you will see this level on the posterior side, again you will have the two elevation on both the side of midline. Now these elevations are known as tubercles. Now medial tubercle is known as tubercle for gracile nuclei, and lateral tubercle is for the tubercle for the cuneate nuclei. So this is known as the tubercle, and these tubercles are having underlying grey matter which are known as nuclei. So my dear students, whenever I am drawing the section at the level of pyramidal decussation, I first start from the dorsal side where I will draw these two elevation, and these two elevations are representing these dorsally present two projections or the tubercle on both the side of midline. So this is known as tubercle for the nucleus gracilis, this is the tubercle for the nucleus cuneatus. Then I will draw the similar pattern of the section outline just like the spinal cord. Now once you are able to draw this outline, now we are talking about the your features inside the your this section. So again, I will clear this thing that when you start the drawing of this section, you have to keep this thing in mind that anteriorly will have the fissure and the posteriorly will have the sulcus, and these two elevations are the tubercles, and these tubercles are always present on both the side of the midline, and these tubercles are known as gracile and cuneate tubercle. Now what next? Now we will draw first the grey matter. Now my dear students, as I already told you that this tubercle is for the gracile and this tubercle is for the cuneate nuclei, and you know that nuclei is always a part of grey matter. So now here you can see the grey matter, the shape of grey matter is more or similar to the shape of your spinal cord. Now if you will see the spinal cord grey matter, the spinal cord grey matter is having this classical H-shape appearance. So you have to keep this thing in mind that the shape is very similar to each other. But what is happening that this posterior part of the grey matter is showing some more add-on feature. So here this grey matter is not like this. Now what is happening here with the grey matter? This grey matter is showing 3 part on one side, then the 3 part on another side, while the remaining part remains as it is. Clear? So here you can see that these are the 1, 2 and 3 part, and this is again 1, 2 and the 3 part on both the side of the midline dorsally. So this has to be very clear in your mind that you have to draw 1, 2, 3 features on the dorsal side of grey matter. Now what is the labeling of these 3 features? Now the medial most is the nucleus, and this nucleus is known as nucleus gracilis. Then the next is the nucleus, and this nucleus is nucleus cuneatus. So here this is nucleus gracilis and nucleus cuneatus. Now this nucleus is the nucleus of the 5th or trigeminal nerve, which is known as spinal nucleus of trigeminal nerve. It is known as spinal nucleus of trigeminal nerve. Now my dear students, whenever you are drawing this diagram, classical H-shape feature, you have to keep this thing in mind that at this tip, what you will have in the spinal cord? Answer is substantia gelatinosa. Answer is substantia gelatinosa. Now here, this part is remain as it is here, and that's why this is said that spinal nucleus of trigeminal nerve continue as a substantia gelatinosa, or vice versa, substantia gelatinosa is having upward continuation with the spinal nucleus of trigeminal nerve. That means these gracile and cuneate tubercle are appearing on this side of the midline and here also. Clear? So there are total 3 features will appear there on the dorsal side. What is this medial most? The nucleus gracilis, nucleus cuneatus, and spinal nucleus of trigeminal nerve. So these are the 3 important features which you have to draw at the section of pyramidal decussation. Now you should keep this thing in mind that we are not going to draw olive and in this section. Why I told you that the olive is a feature of the upper part of medulla, not the lower part of medulla. So in this section, you can see that we have not draw any kind of olive component. So now these are the 3 things which you have to clear first, that this is what is the decussation of your pyramidal fiber. So we are talking about this level, and here you can see that on the anterior side of the midline, you are having the medial most elevation is the pyramid, which is produced by the underlying corticospinal fibers. But these corticospinal fibers gradually change their position in lower part. That's why the pyramid will disappear in the lower part of medulla. So pyramid is a prominent feature in upper part of the medulla. So this is the one thing. Second thing is, next to the medulla, you will have one more projection. Now this elevation is known as olive. And you can see that if you will take the section at this level, the olive is not present up to this part. But suppose I am taking the section at this level, then olive will come in the picture. So in these 2 images, if you will compare, what you are able to understand, that one is, it is showing the pyramidal decussation, but there is no olive. In this image, you will have the olive. That means definitely we are talking at some higher level in the medulla. So presence of olive and presence of pyramidal decussation cannot be possible in one section. Clear? So presence of olive means we are talking in upper part of medulla, either through the lower end of olive, mid of the olive, upper end of the olive. But we cannot see the pyramidal decussation in the field of this olive nuclei. If you have to see the pyramidal decussation, you always talk about below your olive. Clear? The second thing which you can see in both these images, that there is a presence of central canal here also and here also. That means these both images are in the lower part of the medulla, because in upper part of the medulla, you are having the floor of fourth ventricle posteriorly. So in this image also, you still have the closed canal, and in this image also, you will have this closed canal. So my dear students, whenever you are drawing this section particularly, which we are discussing today, you will find that there is no olive, and in the central gray matter, you have to first draw these 3 projections. That means from medial to lateral, it is nucleus gracilis, cuneatus, and spinal nucleus of trigeminal nerve. Now we will draw the white matter. Now in white matter, the first and most important thing, that is dominancy of the decussation of pyramidal tract. So you have to understand that the fibers which are present here on the anterior side, now changing the direction. So they are going from right to left, anterior to posterior and laterally, anterior to posterior and laterally. So this is from left to right. So ultimately the 80% of your fibers which are producing the pyramidal prominence now change their direction. So below this level, there is no more pyramidal areas are seen in the anterior aspect. Clear? Apart from that, you have to draw the remaining tracts which you know in the spinal cord, like your these spinocerebellar tract. Now you know that on this lateral part of the spinal cord, you are having these two tracts. Now these tracts are spinocerebellar tract. So you have to draw the dorsal and the ventral spinocerebellar tract here on both the margins of your spinal cord. So first you have to draw this outline, which has to be always in your mind, that posteriorly I have to draw the two projection which are representing the tubercles. Then I have to draw this outline and anterior median fissure. Then when I am drawing the center part, I have to draw the 1, 2 and 3 projection posteriorly, 1, 2 and 3 projection posteriorly, and then you have to draw this remaining ventral part of your gray matter. Now in white matter, I told you, here you have to draw these two peripherally placed spinocerebellar tract, plus you have to draw the dominating feature, that means the decussation of pyramidal fiber. So these right fiber will come on the left side and these left fiber will go on the right side. Clear? Now there is one more thing, that what is happening here. The thing is that because of the large number of the fibers which are crossing to right to left and left to right, what will happen, that this anterior gray matter now detach from the remaining part of gray matter. So it is, if you will see in the book or in some other images, you will find that it is showing only some fibers are just crossing this gray matter. But my dear student, it is not like that. It is millions of the fibers and it's a very thick bundle of the fiber. So when that much of the large number of fibers will cross into the opposite side, what will happen actually, you will have a very thick bundles which are just cutting this anterior part from the remaining part of the gray matter. So in this condition, you have to keep it in mind that this is the anterior horn in case of a spinal cord, but now it is not known as anterior horn, it is known as detached anterior horn. It is known as detached anterior horn. So why it is detached from the remaining part of gray matter? Because the crossing of the pyramidal fibers cut this anterior horn from the remaining horn, remaining gray matter. Clear? So my dear students, what will happen in finally when you have this section in your mind, that once you draw the outline and then you complete this in such a way, you have to keep this thing in mind that posteriorly you will have the tubercles. So we have draw the two elevations. Anteriorly, we don't have the prominency of the pyramid because the pyramidal fibers almost start to cross. So we will just make a smooth part on the ventral side. If we are going above the pyramidal decussation, then this is showing a kind of prominency, and these prominent areas are for the pyramidal tract. But these prominent areas are not present here on the ventral side because there is a gradual crossing has been started. So the fibers now taking a new place, that is a lateral side of white matter. So earlier they are present on the ventral side, but they will cross the midline and they will occupy a new place in the spinal cord as a lateral corticospinal tract. Clear? So this is the final output come as a TS of medulla at the level of pyramidal decussation, where you have to keep this thing in mind that posteriorly there are 3 projections, then anteriorly you will have the detached anterior horn. Detached anterior horn means that these large number of the crossing is separating this anterior horn from the remaining part of the gray matter. Plus in this part you have the posterior column fibers, that means fasciculus, gracilis and cuneatus, and you will have the nucleus, gracilis and cuneatus, plus you will have the spinal nucleus of trigeminal nerve, and this spinal nucleus give rise to the some fibers on the tip which are known as spinal tract of trigeminal nerve. Then the majorly you will have the crossing, then you will have the peripherally placed your spinocerebellar tract, and on this anterior part you will have the spinothalamic tract. Clear? So now my dear students, at the end of this session, I hope you are able to understand how to draw the section of the medulla oblongata at the level of pyramidal decussation, and you have to keep this thing in mind that pyramidal decussation is the last point after which you don't have the presence of pyramid in the remaining part. Clear? And second thing is the pyramidal decussation means that the fibers which are present on the ventral side is crossing in 80% of the number, and they will occupy new place, that means as a lateral corticospinal tract, which will then descend into the spinal cord. Clear? So this is what about this section of the medulla oblongata. Thank you.